in particular Quito, Ecuador, in the end of May, and I was there for a week. I went with my dad, and I want to tell you why you should fly to Quito, Ecuador. Number one, it's not your nemesis, so you can be happy about that. But it's a great place to be, and I want to make sure that you all know where Quito, Ecuador is. Let's start with, do you know where Ecuador is? Number one. Yeah. Okay, so you know it's near the equator. Okay, that's good. All right. So if you can go to the next slide. So Ecuador is on the northwest corner of map here of South America. And then in the next slide, you'll see that we'll zoom in a little more. Quito is in the north central part, and you're going to see this, I don't know if you can notice this brown area here. These are the Andes Mountains that go through the middle of Ecuador, and they're very high mountains. Quito is in the middle of it. So, okay, you can go to this. So, population of Ecuador, there's 16.6 million people in Ecuador. There's 1.9 million in Quito. And the people of Ecuador, there's 4 racial categories. There's mestizo, which is a mix of Native American and Caucasian. And I have some mestizo. Native American is 25%. Mestizo is 65%. Then the American Indian is 25%. The Caucasians are only 7%. And then there's some African people who descend from African people in Ecuador, and they're 3%. And then there's a few other smaller immigrants from Asia and other parts of the world, but they're just even smaller numbers. So here's a picture of what people in Ecuador look like. You can see all the 4 different racial categories here. Next slide, please. And the altitude, I was talking about the mountains in the middle of Ecuador. Quito is up high. It's 9,350 feet high. It's much higher than Denver, which is only just under 6,000 feet. And then there are 3 other places that I'm going to talk about. Panecillo is a hill in the middle of the south part of the city. It's 9,000, basically 10,000 feet. Ilalo is another hill, but it starts lower, so it looks higher. And that's more or less 10,000 feet. In the volcano Pichincha, that one is almost 16,000 feet high. And I got to go up it, but not climb. So anyway, we'll just, let's skip some of this. Let's go to, let's skip that too. Okay, so I just want to talk about the airport. So Quito got its airport in 1960, but because Quito is next to Pichincha, there's a lot of cold wind, strong winds from Pichincha. Those winds make airplanes have a difficult time to land. So in 2002, the city got with the politicians and business leaders to build a new airport. And now there's this new airport. It got finished in 2014. It started operating. It's really nice. It's further out away from the volcano and the high mountains and the high winds. Okay, please stop. Okay. So it's not so dangerous to fly to Quito. Next slide. So now I want to talk about attractions of Quito. So there's 2 attractions that I'll mention. There's Mitad del Mundo, which is on the equator. Then there's the Panecillo. I mentioned that as a hill in the middle of the historical center. And then Ilalo is a hill that you can climb and get good vistas from it. And then Teleférico is a cable car that takes you almost to the top of the Pichincha volcano. And you can get that's where you get the best vistas in the whole city. So let's go ahead and move on. So we'll stop here. This is a picture of what it looks like from going up the Teleférico. You're at about 14,000 feet in altitude, and the rest of the city's at 9,300 feet. So you get to see like a lot of the city from there. And I point out that Mitad del Mundo is up north. The airport's on the east here, South is where Low is. It's more or less in that corner. I'm sorry, that's southeast, and then the south is where the historical center and the Panecillo is. And I'll show you pictures what it looks like. And then in the west side, this is basically part of the Pichincha volcanoes. It's really high, so it's basically what covers the western edge of the city. So let's go on to that next slide. Okay, so this is what Mitad del Mundo looks like. This is the equatorial monument. It's 80 feet tall, and there's a museum inside of it. So it's kind of fun to check it out. Okay, next slide. And this is a picture of me and my dad over there. Nice pictures. Okay, next slide. For hotels that I thought were really interesting, Hotel Plaza Grande, Casa Ganotena, those are right in historical downtown, historical center. And they're right next to the famous churches in Quito. And then there's an interesting airport hotel by Wyndham, the American company. And it has a really interesting futuristic look. It looks black, almost like a black cylinder, and it looks like it's coming from the future, but I couldn't get a picture to download from it, but you can Google Hotel Quito Airport Wyndham, and you can see what it looks like. And then there's a Crater Restaurant. Can you go back to Crater Restaurant? It's a hotel and spa, and it's next to a volcano crater. That's why it's called Crater, and it's near Mitad del Mundo, so it's in the further north part of the city. Okay, next slide. So I'll talk about the Crater real quick. It's a hotel. It costs only $78 a night, so it's not as expensive as other hotels. Food, spend $7 to $16, and the food is really good. It's kind of far from the rest of the city, but it's a nice place to visit. So it looks like I ran out of time, but I just wanted to show you the picture real quick, what it looks like. So it's on a edge of a big crater of a volcano, and you can really it looks like it's maybe 1,000 feet to the bottom. It's pretty deep. But yeah, this is where the restaurant is. This is the hotel, and I'll just take pictures from up here. It's a pretty nice place to be. But I will go ahead and end my